Yesterday, we left the witch flying out of the house. Today, we're going to find out where she went. Where do you think she went? Here she is, flying her broom. Up in the air, Blackington as the pilot, the little kittens in the back. Let's discover where she went. At the last line, she almost shrieked. She waved her cloak and straddled her broom. The door flew open and Blackington leaped to the handle. His claws dug in well. The broom rose from the floor and shot through the open door amidst a cloud of bats and a shower of dust. Up, up it went, weaving through spaces in the trees till it gained the open sky. Down in the cottage, the candle had blown out. The clock still ticked, but only the spiders were there to hear it. There's the kittens in their precarious place in the broom, and here is the witch. From their precarious perch inside the broom, the kittens couldn't see a thing. That was because their eyes were tightly shut. Their ears were laid flat and their claws dug in for dear life. But they could feel the rushing wind and each knew the other was there. Where are we? What's happened? Too many managed to whisper. Goodness knows. But I guess this is what the spider meant. Too many replied. Yes, I remember now. A ride. Who would have thought it meant this? Shall we ever come back? Where are we going? That's what I'd like to know. Too many dared to open his eyes and glance downward. Look, he said. Look at all those lights. They can't be stars either. They're below us. He slithered down the broom to get a better look. Two ventured to change his position. To their surprise, they heard the witch say, Blackington, we're not well balanced tonight. Something is different. Have you been sharpening your claws on my broom again and breaking some of the bristles? At that very moment, one of the kittens lost their balance and started flying through the sky. The big cat swished its tail and said nothing. The escorting bats circled the riders constantly. I distinctly felt a tail wobble, and it isn't the wind, the witch went on. The kittens dared not move. Ah, she said presently, maybe my cloak is caught. The witch made a quick movement, and the broom dipped suddenly. The kittens were unprepared. Too many lost his grip and slithered perilously near the end of the bristles, clutching madly with his outspread claws and trying to find a fresh grip. He was hanging now only by 2 feet, but he clung on. Very cautiously, Two slid himself backward, tail extended, hoping to give his brother aid. Just as the tip of his tail was within Too Many's reach, the wind caught the witch's cloak. The end of it flapped wildly behind her and slapped against the broom. It almost enveloped the kittens before it tugged away again. They lost their hold. Next minute, they were falling one behind the other, down, 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 towards the lights below. The kittens didn't land hard, but they landed on the ground kind of with a soft thud. Strangely enough, they did not fall fast. Some of the flying potion had got sprinkled on them too, but once they let go of the broom, it had less effect. However, they were sailing quite gently. After turning several somersaults, they spread their tails and toes to act as a parachute and landed safely on their feet. Two landed last because his tail was the fastest. He biffed Too Many on the head. They both felt dazed. What happened? Where are we? They tried to walk, but their legs were wobbly. I'm sort of sorry we're going to miss the ride. Wonder where they're off to. I wonder where we are, remarked Two, giving himself a good shake and trying his legs again on the grassy lawn. Too Many peered about him. Suddenly, he shot 15 inches into the air, landed stiffly on all fours, every hair bristling. He spat loudly. Whatever's the matter, gasped Two. He turned around, and was he surprised? There stood the biggest laughing jack-o'-lantern the kittens had ever seen. And then there were some more. Then, just a few feet away, was an enormous face staring at them. A great orange face with no body, no arms, and no legs. It was sitting on the ground laughing at them. Twist my tail, what's so funny? Called Too Many to the face when he had recovered from his fright. You wouldn't think it was so funny if you just fallen miles through the air. He stalked stiffly up to the great face. Still it grinned. The eyes flickered wickedly. Too Many backed away. Two peered closer. Is it alive? Don't know. Smells warm. Dare you pat it? I'd rather pounce on it. Pat it, pounce it, pat it, pounce it, pat. Psst, someone's coming. We better hide. Together the kittens raced for safety through some shrubs. But there, on the other side, on a doorstep, sat another great orange face, glaring down at them. Singe my whiskers. That one looks fierce. They darted across the driveway. There was yet another face with even bigger teeth than the one before. On they went, scrambling through the bushes, under fences, even crossing a street, fearing they heard footsteps behind them. They were so scared of all these jack-o'-lanterns, but then they heard another sound. What do you think they heard? Everywhere they went, orange faces seemed to peer at them, grinning, solemn, smiling, surprised. Big mouth, cross-eyed, large, small, high, low, wide, and shining. Many of the faces seemed to have bright lights coming from inside them, which made them more scary than ever. Come on, let's climb a tree and get away from them, cried Too Many. He darted under some low boughs and started up a spruce. Two followed him. Soon they were lost in the thick evergreen branches. But before they reached the top, they felt the tree shudder. Something had landed on it. The kittens peered. The object dangling from a branch was long and black. Something on it shone silver. Too Many crawled near to have a closer look. Why, it's the old witch's shoe, he called to Two, the one that was tied on. Come and help me untangle the string. Now, while they were working at it, there was a sudden rush of wind over their heads, and a cloud of bats flew by. Creeping claws, that means the witch herself isn't far away. Blackington was spreading dust on the shoe, and look who's coming up with them. And there's Blackington. Let me get back. There's Blackington. They flattened themselves on the branch and shut their eyes. In a moment, they could hear the witch's croaky voice calling, "Shoo, shoo, show yourself, do! Drat that lost button! Who'll find me my shoe?" Without stopping to think, the kittens mewed, "Here, here, we found your shoe." It was Blackington who heard them. Immediately he stirred the broom low between the tree. The kittens saw his great yellow eyes shining like lamps. "Look out!" cried the witch. "Wherever are you going? We'll smash into that tree if you're not careful." She took out an ample amount of sewing powder to save herself, as she thought, from a disaster. It did the trick. It landed on the shoe, which slowly began to rise. The dust landed on the kittens too. With their claws still tangled in the string, they also rose into the air. "Scroopy scrimpies! Never thought I'd see you two again. Meow, Blackington," as he reached out a paw to catch the shoe. "You've done us a good turn and no mistake. Saved the night, in fact. Jump on behind. We may need you again." "Dare you?" whispered Too-Many, but there was no time to argue about it. Almost before they knew what was happening, the kittens found themselves enveloped in the witch's cloak again. The broom was skimming the rooftops, and the witch was as pleased as a pumpkin to have her shoe back again. "At least this is better than meeting all those faces," whispered Two. "And maybe it will be fun after all," replied Too-Many, feeling braver this time. And fun it certainly was. The witch was so happy to have her shoe back, was in a jovial mood. She went roof hopping all over town. She puffed down chimneys. She beat a tattoo with her heels on the shingles. She stopped electric clocks and set all the church bells ringing. She sent down the bats to bother the street lamps and scare the people. She shook the last apples off the trees, tipped over the pumpkins, blew out the candles, whistled through keyholes, and set all the dogs barking and the cats to meowing. The kittens thought it was hilarious. "My, what a rough night," the old folks said as they peered nervously out their doors, while the children went shrieking and laughing through the streets. The old clock in the church tower struck 11 booming strokes. "Gracious Grunches," said the witch, "it's time to go or we'll never get to the grand race." Blackington knew what this meant. He sent a message to the kittens by the spider, who rode in a crack of the broom handle. "Tell those two behind to hang on tight. We're going to be going at top speed." The spider called down the handle to where the kittens crouched, their backs to the witch. He delivered the message. "But where are we going?" asked Too-Many. "It's the grand race over the moon." "The moon happens every Halloween when the moon is up. Remember I said this year the moon will be full on Halloween." "Kibberly Fibberly sounds exciting." "It is, but be sure you hold tight now and keep your eyes open." The spider crawled back into his crack. Already the broom was mounting, and all the goblins and witches were flying toward the moon. The moon had risen like a squashed orange and was climbing the eastern sky. The witch kept shaking out more sewing powder over them all. They went higher and higher. The wind whistled by. Even the bats could hardly keep up with them. In spite of the spider's advice, the kittens shut their eyes tight. But they dug their claws into the broom deeper than ever. They were determined to hold on. Now and again, the broom seemed to swerve perilously, or there was an added rush of sound as if other objects were going by. Two and Too-Many dared open their eyes just a little bit. Now they saw that they were certainly in a race. Other brooms with strange riders were riding across the sky. Some had witches, some had goblins, but all had cat pilots whose eyes blazed bright as headlights. The kittens were amazed. They stared, their eyes opened wider and wider with astonishment. Now their broom was close to overtaking another. Suddenly, there was a scream. From the rider they had just passed. Taillights! Look, she's got taillights! Whoever heard of such a thing? It isn't in the rules, shrieked the other witch. It's an innovation, cried the goblin. Wish I had thought of it too. Twin taillights! They are dazzling me, screamed another rider, wobbling badly. There was a terrific commotion in the sky. Riders swerved off course and collided. Brooms got tangled. Cat pilots lashed their tails and spat at each other. In the midst of it all, Blackington and the witch and their broom, with the all unsuspecting taillights, shot ahead. Over the moon they went and were first at the goal. They landed safely at the place exactly between night and morning. What a reception they were given. The great Sky Witch Queen fastened the coveted moon pin on the witch's hat, shook hands, and congratulated her and Blackington. Now, she said, tell me about your new taillights. They sound like a fine invention. The witch was speechless. Then Blackington rubbed self-consciously against her legs and came forward. Just a little idea I had, which was not, of course, exactly true. He called to Two and Too Many to come forward. Bravely, they walked out of their hiding place in the big broom and sat gazing up at the great Sky Witch Queen, their eyes wide and shining. Bodikins and beeswax, she grinned. Wherever did you find them? Oh, your majesty, replied the witch. I leave all such details to my pilot, Blackington. The cat purred grandly, but said no more. It was 5 minutes to morning when they arrived home. The broom circled its way down into the wood and came to rest in front of the crooked cottage. The witch climbed off stiffly. The kittens hopped off and stretched themselves. They helped Blackington and the witch to carry the broom inside. The spiders throbbed on their webs in welcome. The bats settled back on their beams in the roof. Well, Blackington, said the witch proudly, we made it. But you know those taillights were what did it. Where are they now? Let me take a good look at them. She lit the candle and glared down at Two and Too Many, who had come out of the shadows at a signal from Blackington and stood side by side in front of the witch. Fillikins, billikins, she grinned. Now, ugly as she was, the kittens could really see a twinkle in her eye. Where did they come from? Blackington waved his tail meaningfully. Why didn't you tell me about them before? Blackington spread his front paws in a curious gesture. I suppose you would have thought I would have said they were too many, chuckled the witch. Well, they're indispensable now. Mine for keeps. Take good care of them, Blackington. Who knows? We may win again next year. Now scat, all of you. Get busy, for I'm starving. With that, she hung up her tall hat and beamed at the new moon pin. She dragged off her cloak, kicked off her shoes, and giving a huge yawn, she turned to wind the clock, and Blackington and the kittens began to fry frog legs for breakfast. I hope you've enjoyed my story. Happy Halloween!